Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video I'm gonna go through the jamming project. Before we get into the video, just gonna tell you guys that I'm gonna be adding sections into this video, as you guys can see on screen right now, and you guys can skip ahead to whichever section you want. And one more thing that I should mention in the beginning is that this video is gonna have a part 2 as well, because this video was getting pretty long and I just could not post a single video. So without further ado, let's get started. First one is create a React application. So it's telling us to do these things. So the first thing we gotta do is create a new React application new directory called jamming. So I already have done that. I have made a new directory named jamming YouTube, as you guys can see here, jamming YouTube, and in this directory I have nothing. So first of all I'm gonna run npm create react app and jamming. Oops, I think it's gonna need. So what's it gonna do is install the packages or the modules that this would need. So we're gonna go back to our, so it's saying use create react with the name of the folder you want to create. So we're gonna create a use create react app by the name jamming, as you guys can see here, and it would create it with, when it's finished we'll be right back. You might see a page like this. You can run, these are some instructions that you are greeted with, and you can run npm start to, oops, oh, I'm not in the directory, so I should go to the directory and use the up arrow to start our React application. And when you run the command, you might be able to see, if you are seeing this page, it means that your create react app application has been compiled, or yeah, it has been compiled successfully. So after that we can go to, in index.html, update the title value to jamming. So we are gonna go to the index.html file, and in the title, yeah, here, you're gonna name it jamming. Remove app.test and logo from src folder. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna do this and remove src app.test.js and what was the other one, logo. It was app.test and logo, yeah, these two. Sorry if this is bothering you, I'm just gonna, so let's go to the src folder, and now you guys can see that we don't have we have removed these two from src folder, saying add reset.css to public directly and link it in index.html. It was in the public directory, so reset.css, and we're gonna paste it here and link it inside here. So yeah, this is the from another project that I had. So we're gonna add a link relationship. It's gonna be style sheet, and href is gonna be, it was, yeah, in the same directory as this file, because it's in public index.html, and we added it inside the public directory, as you guys were able to see. Yeah, So if we ls, this is the index.html file that we have right now, and this is the reset.css file that we created here. After this, we're gonna need a type of text, CSS, and this. Link the following Google Fonts. Go to fonts.google.com and search for these pop-ins and work sans. We search for pop-ins. I already have them here from before. Let's remove these and add them again. The one specified here was 600 and 300 and 500 for the work sans. So for the pop-ins we need 600, and we are here at semi-bold 600. I'm going to choose this, and we can also choose another one. We go back here and type in work sans. We're gonna get the 300 and 500 for this one. So the 300 light and 500. So the reason I'm using Google Fonts is because it gives you the code for it, so you don't have to do all the hard work, and you can just easily copy it. So we're gonna go back to index.html file and add it just right here, I think. Yeah, so that our code looks good. And we go back here and take this up, favicon.ic with this image. Download this image, that image again. And oops, forgot to mention this directory. And now we should have, yeah, here is our ICO, or our icon. Create static components. So basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna have 6 components. These are all gonna be separated into different files so that we can work with them easily. They have provided the HTML and CSS files for them. So the first one is going to create a components directory inside the SRC. So right now we have an SRC component, and we are asked to add another one inside of this. So we're going to go to and mkdir's components. It's a directory called app in the components, so we're gonna use this one and name it app, and move app.js and app.css to the app folder and update the path and index.js accordingly. Yeah, we have app.css and app.js files. We're gonna move these two inside this directory, and we're also gonna update the paths inside the index.js. So right now let's check the index.js. So right now it's importing app from, if you have a single dot, it means it's in the same directory as this index.js file, which is right now the app.js file is in the same directory as index.js. So if we move these two files from this directory inside the app, move this and this .css inside the app directory. So right now, as you can see, these two are gone, and if we ls the app directory, we have them here. So these must be updated, the app and yes, app.js. Additionally, add this background image to the directory as well. It is used by the file. Okay, so let's open this up and download it as background photo desktop. or just name it jamming background, and it's downloaded. Let's go to here and downloads jamming image to this folder, this app, and we have the image here. It's our app.js rendered method. Add a return statement with JS that renders this HTML. So the reason with this app.js file is it's using functional components, and as I can remember, so this is one of the first issues with this course, is that the code that some of the tasks are not what we were taught so far. So we haven't learned functional components yet. So what we have to do is remove, basically just change this into a class component. So for that we need to import React in our file. Import React from React, and after importing React we are gonna copy or cut this whole return statement. So we're gonna say class app extends React dot component, and inside our render method we are gonna return this, and voila, here is that functional component turned into a class component. So we are familiar with it more. So going back here, inside app.js render method, add a return statement with JS that renders this HTML. So this is our return statement. Let's see this HTML file. So this should return this file, and instead we're gonna paste this. So change folder guidelines below, change all class attributes to class name. Yeah, this is another thing that we should do. HTML we can use classes, or in CSS, but in React we should replace class with class name attributes. Oops, sorry. They are replaced. Here we are. Do not change the class values. Okay, we won't. Use the comments in the HTML document from the latest step to determine the components you need to import. So add a search bar component. We need a search bar component. So this means we are gonna need to add. Did I add the CSS file? Let's add it as well. Let's check the app.css file. I think I did. But to be sure, let's remove these, add it. Yeah, here we are asked to add a search bar component. So to do this, we need to have, as we were asked here, we need to have these components inside different directories. So we're gonna clear this. We're gonna go to the components directory. I think I should move the app inside the app directory inside the components directory, I believe. Yeah, in the components I have made a mistake here. And we also don't need this file, this line of code that was throwing the error. So inside index.js we are gonna update this again. So the app is now inside components, the app directory, and the app.js file. I haven't moved it. I did. Okay, so here it's expecting this file, and we named ours jamming background photo. So what we could do is mv no ls to components app and mv jamming this to this dot jpeg, I believe, jpg. Yeah, so that one is gone. Component src components app.js logo.svg. So we have two app.js files. This is a complete disaster. Oh, come on, I was working. Oh, no, it's okay, it's completely okay. Yeah, here we are. So what you guys need to do is remove that line and do what it's told here. Okay, so in the comments here we are told to add a search bar component. So we are gonna do just that. So we are gonna make a search bar. So this is the HTML for search bar. So inside search bar, so .js and .css, and we have to import React from React. Yeah, thank you, VS Code. And we are gonna have to say class search bar, no, not search results bar, extends react dot component, and inside the render method we are gonna have to return this. This is what you have to do with each and every one of the index dot these files. So this is the search bar HTML file, this is the CSS file. Let me show you. Right now I haven't added those files, so as soon as I add those components inside the app.js component, you're gonna see a difference there. So search bar.css, we're gonna add this, and oops, we haven't added it yet. So after this we're gonna search bar. So we're gonna import it, search bar from where? Yes, here. Oh, it doesn't have any exports. Let's export it here, export, and so that's how we should import a file if we have exported it this way. So we added the search bar component here. So after that we need another component, add a search result component. So we're gonna open this one up. Let's do this again, search result and CSS of that. So we need to mkdir search result. Is it search results or result? It's results, yeah. So we have to go to this file and add a search result .js file and a .css file. I think the easier thing to do would be to copy this and paste it here and remove and just change the names. The new one is search results and we need to change these to this and comment this out, and here we go. So search result.css file, copy this, go here and remove it. So search bar is okay. Oops, yeah, we did export it. Okay, so here because of the extensions that I'm using, if we just type search result, it's gonna automatically detect it and add the import statement for it. So as I hit enter, keep your eye here. As you guys can see, it automatically detects it, and we just need to add the closing tag. Obviously components are self-closing in JSX or in so here we need to add a playlist component, close as well, go to the playlist component. So here we need to do those again, mkdir playlist. Yeah, its name is playlist, and touch playlist.js and CSS, and we are gonna just copy this whole file and paste it inside the playlist.js file and remove and make the necessary changes. Playlist here and oops. Comment this out and playlist.css file. And close these as we are going through them. I need this one to copy paste it into other stuff. So here we are gonna add the playlist. No. Yeah. Why did it not detect it? It is exporting it. So Sometimes I think it doesn't work. Yeah, now it works. Okay. So that's it for this session. So I did most of these below steps. Use the component comments in the to note you will create a folder for each component. Yeah, we're told here. The JavaScript file and CSS files for each component will live in the components folder. The folder JavaScript file and CSS file will all have the same name. So we need to import following three components: playlist, search bar, and search results. Add this to app.js, import that app.css into app.js. Oh my goodness. I haven't imported. Obviously I have imported app.css here, but not in these files. They also have a playlist.js file and search bar.js. So we will do them eventually, as we are reminded here. Create a search bar directory. I have done that. Search bar here. And we have these other ones as well. Create these ones inside search bar. Render method, return this, change our class attributes. Okay, let's go back to search bar and change this to name. Here we also have a class name, and also we need to input it. This is to search bar, yeah. So we need to import app.css, import search bar.css, yeah. So now we have the CSS for it. Create a search result, inside search result, add this HTML file. We did these. Change the class attributes. I don't think we did those. So search result.js. I think we need to close search bar for now. Search result.js. We have changed class name and we haven't imported our search result.css file. Okay, what's next? Add the CSS. I did. Create a playlist. I need to change these to class name. Import playlist.css. This is done. Also, inside playlist, create a component called playlist with a render method. I have done this. Change all class attributes to class name. Okay, change value property to default value and set it equal to new playlist. So change this to what? Default value and new playlist. If you want, comment out TrackList since it didn't. Where's TrackList? Yeah, I haven't added it this far. If you need to import any components, we already have exported it. So in all of those files we had these comments telling us to import some other stuff. So this is pointing towards the TrackList component, which was given to us here. Yeah, we have it here. Create a TrackList directory. We are gonna do that. Okay, let's first of all see what we have. TrackList I believe it was like this, yeah, TrackList directory, go to JS and .css, TrackList, this HTML, no, first of all I need to paste these, remove, no, we will add a method, a map method later. Let's add the CSS file as well. So here it's telling us to change the class attributes to class name. Okay, you'll modify. For now, you'll hardcode 3 tracks in a later, so you'll replace the hardcode value with tracks from Spotify. In the components directory. Okay, so we're gonna make a track directory, and we're gonna touch track, add a track file, track.js file, and also a .css file, because that's what we do for each and every one of them. Yeah, inside track, add track.js and track.css, so we already did that. Let's see the track component directory, sorry. It has .css and .js files, so this one is done. Inside, create a component called track with a render method. Inside track.js, we are gonna copy this, paste it here. Let's see. Remove this track. And return this HTML. We're going to comment these using the Win key plus the slash command, or the command plus, I don't know what it is for Windows, but in Mac it's command plus slash. So that is a shortcut for commenting lines of code that you don't need. Okay. Create a method called renderAction that displays a button element with this as its content if the isRemovable property is true. So we are gonna create a method. So to create a method, you need to add it above the render method, not inside it. We are gonna name it renderAction. Inside this render method, we are gonna add an if statement checking if this props is removable property is true, return a button, and its value should be a minus. If this props is removable property is not true, then it should return a button with plus as its value. Set the class name to TrackAction. Okay, we are gonna give these two class name. To add double cursors, just hold down Alt key plus anywhere you click with the mouse. It would add a cursor there, and you can just type wherever you want at the same time. So if you want to remove a cursor, just hold down Alt and click back at that place, and it should remove that cursor. So here we are gonna add a class name with its value being track action, and you can use the escape key to clear the cursors. And don't forget to call this function here. Track action will go here. So here we can just call it, and it's gonna be as if we are adding a button here. So we need to wrap this in curly braces as we are calling a function. Number 29. Here is just explaining what we will do in this section. We can take this off and go ahead, add a constructor function to the API app component and pull in props from the React component class. So we're gonna say constructor, we're gonna pass it props, and we are gonna go call super props. Take this off. Number 31. Inside the app component, set a hard-coded value for this dot state dot search results. It will be an array containing track objects. So as we remember from here, each track must have these three fields like shown here: name, artist, and album. So we're gonna write this dot state and set it equal to a search results. Set this equal to an array of objects. So here we're gonna, this is the first object, and this one is gonna have a name, would be example track name. The other one is gonna be artist, it's gonna be example track artist. The other one was album, example track album. The other one was ID, and set it to a number, let's say 1. Let's add another one. Okay, so to copy this, we're gonna select it with shift and arrow keys and hold shift plus alt key and up or down arrows, and it would just copy it. So let's change the names so we can differentiate them from the first one. Let's just add 2 at the end of each one and change their ID as well. So we're good here. Take this off. Number 32, pass the state of the app component search results to the search results component. So here I was searching for an attribute name to see what should I call it, and here it is, just name it attribute called search results. So we are gonna say search results, and it should be this dot state dot search results, and that's how we pass a state to another component. So this is the search results component which we worked with before, and we are passing this state, this one, search results state, to this component, to search results component. I should do the first one. The first letter should be a small letter S instead of a capital one, as specified here. So here it's saying to the search results component attribute called here, it should be a small s as well to differentiate between this and the component. So this one is done. Pass the search results from the search results component to the TrackList component. So from here we should pass it. Here first of all we need to import the TrackList component. So with the magic of VS Code we should just write the component that we want to use and it would import it automatically. As you can see here, it imports it automatically and we just need to close that track. So here we need to pass it that state that we got from this state that we got from app component to this track component. So here we should name it, what should we name it? Track, so we should name it tracks. Tracks is equal to this dot props dot search results. No, it was a small letter s in the TrackList component, so we passed it down to TrackList, sorry, not track. So we should just change the name and delete this one. Everything else is all right. We don't need to change anything. So we need to go to TrackList component. In the TrackList component, use the map method to render each track in the tracks property. So you might ask why we need to use a map method. When we search for a track, it's gonna give us like 10 to 15 tracks. In order to display all of them, we need to use a map method that maps or goes through those tracks and gets their name, album and artist and displays them here. If we don't use map method, it might just only show one track and not the others. Set the key attribute to track.id, a map method on this this prop that we passed down to from search results. So here that prop's name is track. So this means that in track list component we must use it on that. So here we're gonna write this dot props dot track dot map method, use map method here, and we should name this a song equals to return a track component. Oh, come on, here we made a mistake again. Here it said we should name it tracks. That will not be that much of a problem if we go with track, but if we do what is said here, it would save us from a lot of trouble in the later steps. This is the tracks property. We are using map, and song is gonna be a sort of a placeholder, and we are rendering a track. Inside TrackList component render method, use map on this to render each track in the list. Set the key attribute to track.id or to song. Here we are using a song instead of track. That's completely up to us what we want to. No, not div. It's id. So because it was throwing that error over there was because you are using JavaScript here, and when we want to use JavaScript inside JSX, we should wrap that JavaScript inside curly braces. To pass the current track as an attribute called track to the track component. This current track that this is talking about, we have named it song here, so we should add another attribute with the name of track and name it just song. This is also done. Render the track name, artist and album. We go to the track.js. Here we have sort of a hint that track name should be h3 or should be inside a h3 tag, and the artist and album will go inside a p tag. Add a h3 tag and As I said before, we should wrap it inside curly braces because this is JavaScript inside JSX. So here we are rendering the name at the we should add the p tag and add our curly braces and use this dot props dot what was it, album artist, and use one of these. We would use it outside here to separate them. Props dot album. That's how we render the name and the artist and the album of each track. So this one is done as well. Post, and here, as you guys can see, their names are given here. Here we forgot to add the track properties name, so we are gonna just do this and here as well. And now if we go here, so this means our app is working fine so far. Okay, let's go back here. On to the next section, pass down playlist to TrackList. 37. Add hard-coded values for playlist name and playlist tracks to state in app.js. Playlist name should be example playlist, and playlist track, what was it, playlist tracks, yeah, so it's multiple tracks. Place name to anything. Place track should be an array of objects, each containing name, artist, album, and ID properties. So basically we need to add the same examples that we did for the search results, and they should have name, artist, album as properties. Okay, so what we can do is we can copy it and paste it down. And we can change its name to example playlist track name, so we can differentiate between them. And we can give them different IDs. So for this one we're gonna give it an ID of 3, and for the other one we can give it 4. Give it the 4 number as well, and here as well. Okay, so far so good. We gave it the hard-coded values, 2 hard-coded values. It's not showing here because we have not passed this down to the appropriate components to render them. Right now we are just adding a state to the app component, not passing them down to render them. Okay, so what we need to do next is pass the playlist name and tracks from the app component to the playlist component. Okay, we need to pass them to playlist component. And what should be the names? Check what name should we give the attributes. It should be playlist name and playlist tracks. Okay, so playlist name should be this dot state dot playlist name, and the playlist track should be this dot state dot playlist track. No, not name. Track. And pass the playlist tracks from the playlist component to TrackList component. We need to go to playlist component and pass it down to TrackList component. So I haven't added a TrackList component here. I think we should name it tracks. Yeah, tracks is equal to or equals to this dot props dot playlist tracks, because this was what we named it. No, it's not capital P, it's with small letter P. As so here, playlist tracks. The next section is add tracks to a playlist. After completing step 39, we should be able to see these example tracks in our custom playlist. If we don't, that means we have some issues with our app. In app.js, create a method called addTrack with the following functionalities. So first of all, we need to add a method. Let's close this constructor. So if we need to add a method, it should be outside the or after the constructor method and before the render method called addTrack. So we will add a method here. And it should do the following: accepts a track argument. So we did not give it an argument here. And uses the tracks ID property to check if the current song is in the playlist tracks state. Use the following logic to determine if the track already exists in the playlist and break out of the method if it does. So it has given us a code to check if the track already exists in the playlist tracks. So we could use it inside our addTrack function. Let's give it a variable name. Let's say found track. It should be equal to the code in the hint. So we can say this dot state dot playlist tracks dot find, and here we are gonna give it a variable. We can name it playlist track, and we can say playlist if playlist track dot id equals track dot id. This is referring this dot state dot playlist tracks. This is referring to this playlist track inside our state. So we are using a find method to check if this past track or this argument present inside our playlist track. We are doing this by checking the ID of the past track with the ID of tracks from the playlist track state, if that makes sense. We can check the functionality of the find method in the MDN web docs, and here you can just search for find, and it would give you suggestions. array.prototype.find, this is the one that we are using right now, and here you can see the find method returns the first element in the provided array that satisfies the provided testing function. If no value satisfies the testing function, undefined is returned. If it finds something, then we will write a logic down that would not add that track to the playlist track state. New track equals this dot state dot playlist tracks dot concat. Cat method combines two or more arrays. So we are using this as you can see here, it is an array. We have the tracks as arrays, so we can pass it the track argument, which would add this track with the rest of these tracks inside the state. So far this code will do nothing. Then right now is the time to write the logic if it should add the track or not. So here we can say if found track is true, then it can console.log something like track already exists, and if it doesn't, then it should set this playlist track's state to this new one, which is updated with this new track. And here we can say this dot set state, and we can say set tracks to new track, to this updated track. We can make this logic shorter by saying if found track is true. We say that by adding a question mark, and first we would write our logic if this returns true. So the if found track is true, which is here, then we should console.log this. If it is not, and we can remove this unnecessary code. So this line would do exactly what that did. So the new state of the playlist we set the new state, and we can take this as well. Number 42, bind the current value of this to add track. So we can do that by writing this inside the constructor function. We can bind the value of this like so, this dot name of that method that you want to bind, and this pass this to the bind method. I pass add track to the search results component as an onAdd attribute called onAdd, and this should be this dot add track. So this one is done as well. Pass onAdd from search results component to the TrackList component. So from search result to TrackList component, we would name it onAdd as said there, as this dot props dot onAdd. Pass is removal with a value of false to the TrackList. Okay, so another attribute is removal, so it should be set to false. Pass onAdd from the TrackList component to the track component. From TrackList to track. So here we can make this look a bit pretty as well. Let's do this and say it onAdd as well, and this dot onAdd. Create an add track method in the track component. Use it to add this to the playlist. So I'm just gonna do a voiceover for the rest of this clip, as I don't know, for some reason my microphone stopped working and the audio was not captured. So I'm gonna do a voiceover. Let's go to the track method and add a add track method. We'll add it below the render action method. Let's check the hint. What we have to do, pass this dot props dot track to add track. So we are gonna pass it this dot props dot track to add track. So how this works is the same add track method from app.js, and which we passed from app.js to search results named onAdd, and from search results we passed it to the TrackList component, and its name was onAdd again, and inside the TrackList component we passed it to the track component as an attribute attribute named onAdd. As you guys can see, our add track method inside app.js accepted a track parameter and checked if it was already inside the playlist tracks state. If it was, then it would console.log this text. If it was not, then it would append it at the end of the playlist tracks component. And this .props.track, we got this from the TrackList components map method because as you guys can see here, we passed it an attribute named track and its value was the song that we received from the map method. So this track is the one that we are passing to the add track method. And to be clear, this add track method is completely separate from the add track method inside the app.js component. The only thing they share is the name, and they are separate. So if we have done everything right, we come to our jamming app. We should be able to add these tracks to the playlist, to our custom playlist. If we cannot, then our app or our code has some issues. For these should be minuses instead of plus. It would get done eventually and a couple of steps later. To the next section, remove tracks from a playlist. Number 49, in app.js create a method called remove track with the following functionality. Accepts a track argument, uses this track's ID to filter it out of the playlist tracks, sets the new state of the playlist. Let's go to the app.js and add another method. Let's close this up and name it remove track and pass it a track argument. So I'm thinking we should use the filter method on this playlist track state, so that we can filter the track that we want to remove from the state. So let's look at the filter method in the MDN web docs. So here it says the filter method creates a shallow copy of a portion of a given array, filtered down to just the elements from the given array that pass the test implemented by the provided function. We will set a test, and whichever elements pass that test, those will be returned. So here we are going to say playlist track equals playlist track dot id that does not equal to the track dot id. So the reason we are giving it the not equal sign is because the filter method will return those tracks that pass this test. If we say return playlist tracks that have the same ID as the passed track, then it would just return that track. So here we are saying return those tracks that is not the same as this track. So hence it would not return this track and would return every other track in playlist tracks state. So let's give this a name. Const is present. Okay, so here we can say, let's go back here. Okay, filter it out of the playlist track, sets the new state. So now we will set the new state. We can set it like this dot set state, and name the state that we want to set. It was playlist tracks, and we would set it to is present. In the app constructor method, bind the current value of this. Okay, this is the same. We can just copy this using the command, using the alt plus shift, and here we can say remove track. Oops. And it's done. So okay, this one is the pass remove track to the playlist component as an onRemove attribute. Okay, so let's go to the playlist track and give it another attribute named onRemove, and it should be equal to this dot remove track. Okay, this one is done as well. 51, pass onRemove from playlist component to TrackList component. So go to playlist component and pass this to TrackList component. I believe it would also be named onRemove. Obviously we are gonna use this .props because we passed this track from another component and it's not its own method. Therefore we would use this .props and not this onRemove. Pass is removal with a value of true down to TrackList. Okay, so let's pass is removal with a value of false, I think. What was it? Okay, true. This one is true. Number 52, pass onRemove and is removal from the TrackList component to the track component. So let's check the hint to see what should we name these attributes. So these should be inside this as an attribute called onRemove in the track component. Okay, inside tracklist.js, pass it to the track component. So here we are gonna pass it, its name should be onRemove and it should be equal to this props onRemove. And what was the other one? Is removal. Yeah, is removal is gonna be the one that we got, that this got passed. Removal, because its name was as removal as well here in the playlist component. So we are just passing this prop back to here to the track component. Okay, what's next? Create a remove track method in the track component. Use it to remove this from the playlist. Okay, now we have to add another method, remove track, and this will not have any attributes. This is props.track from the playlist. So here we are gonna say this props on remove, because this is the props on remove is the remove track method that we created here inside the app.js component, and we passed it with as an attribute named onRemove to playlist, and from playlist we removed it. We passed it down to TrackList and its name was onRemove, and inside TrackList we passed it again as onRemove. So this is the remove track component, and we are gonna pass it this props.track. This one is done as well. In track.js, bind this to the current value. Okay. So inside here we can do the same that we did with app.js. We can hold alt plus shift and down key, and we can use the alt keyword to move between words. Okay, so here we are gonna hold down alt and using mouse click here, pressing down alt, hit backspace, it would remove it, and now we can write the name of the method that was remove track, and it's done. Okay, let's go back here. This one is done. In track.js, add an onClick property with a value set to this remove track. So this is the final step. So here we are gonna say onClick and set it to this remove track. And now if we go to our here we have, so this means our code works fine. So far so good. On to the next section, change the name of a playlist. Number 57, in app.js, create a method called update playlist name with the following functionality. So this one is easy. Let's go to our app.js component and add it below this track. You can add it above or below these tracks. The reason I'm doing this is because it keeps our code clean and we can easily guess which method was updated or added later. Update playlist name, I believe, was the name. Update playlist name, yeah. So it should accept a parameter, and it should this dot set the state of playlist name to the name that we have passed here. Bind this to this. Okay, this is 80. Let's go here. Do the same thing that we did with the other ones. Hit Alt plus backspace and write the name of the playlist that we want to bind to this. Okay, pass update playlist name to the playlist component as an attribute named onNameChange. Okay, to the playlist. So as an attribute named onNameChange should be this dot change. No. Change. What's the name of the update? Okay, update playlist name. Yeah, this was the one. Number 59, in the playlist component, create a method called handleNameChange. Let's go to here and add a method called handleNameChange. Come on. And does it have an attribute? Except an event. Yeah, it should be an event. We can call that event or indicate it with an with a letter E. The method should accept an event that is triggered by an onChange attribute in the playlist component's input element. So what this is indicating is that our input element that we have here inside the playlist component, this will have an onChange attribute or an onChange event handler, and this event that we have passed to this method, this will get fired with that event handler that we would have inside the input element. So inside the method call this onNameChange, this onNameChange is the method update playlist name method that we passed from app.js component. So we are gonna call this method or property and pass it the event target's value. So we are gonna say event.target.value. Number 60, add a constructor to the playlist component, call superprops in the constructor method. As I said before, whenever we are using this keyword inside a method, we would always have a we would always have a constructor method. So we are gonna say superprops, and we are gonna say this dot handleNameChange equals this dot handle dot bind this keyword. Okay, this one is done as well. Playlist render method, pass this to an onChange property. So here it might have a mistake in this instruction of the step 61. So here it's not saying where we should put this onChange property. So if you guys remember from here, it's sort of indicating, but it's not specified here. So here it said that it would be inside the component's input element. So it's gonna be safe to say that we can put that onChange attribute inside this input element, and we can say this dot handle name change, and we should be good. Okay, on to the next section. Create a method that saves the playlist to a user's account. So basically what this part is saying is that as we did before with our hard-coded values for the tracks, we differentiated between them using their ID numbers. So here it's saying that Spotify uses the URI of each track to access it or to add or remove that track. So it's saying that we should write a method that would save those tracks to that user's playlist, and then it would reset the playlist or the state that we have in our app. In app.js, create a method called save playlist with the following functionality. Generates an array of URI values called track URIs from the playlist tracks property. Let's go to our app.js component and add another method. Okay, we can name it. Its name was save playlist. Here we can say const track URIs equals this dot state dot playlist tracks dot, we can use the map method to get the track URIs. In a later step, you will pass the track URIs array and playlist name to a method that will save the user's playlist to their account. So right now we don't have to do anything else. Before bind the current value of this to save playlist, let's go up here and bind it using this, and the name was save playlist, name of our playlist. Okay, pass save playlist to the playlist component as an attribute called onSave. So we are gonna pass this to the playlist component, and the attribute name was onSave, and this was this dot save playlist. Okay, this one is done. In the playlist.js save to Spotify button element, add an onClick property with the value set to this.props.onSave. So let's go to the playlist.js file, and here is the button. Here we should add an onClick property or event handler, and this should be set to this.props.onSave. The next section is hook up search bar to Spotify search. So what we are gonna do in this section is we are gonna write a method that would update the search results state. So right now these are two are hard-coded values. Therefore, we get these two before we even search for anything. So when we write that method and add the Spotify API, we would be able to search for a song, and that method would get these tracks and update the search results state, hence it would show them here. 67, in app.js create a method called search with the following functionality. Accepts a search term, logs the term to the console. Search, it accepts a term, and it would console or log it to the console. So this step is done. In the app constructor method, bind this to the search method. So we would do our thing here using the okay, pass search to the search bar component with an attribute name on search. So I'm gonna say on search, oops, this dot search, and we would create a method named search. Here it's saying that we should write a method, a search method that passes the state of the term. If we look at our search bar component, we don't have a state or a constructor method. So what this is indicating, I think, what this is indicating towards is that we should also add a constructor method. It says to add a constructor method, but does not say that we should add a state or not. So I think we should add a state. This is wrong. So we're gonna say this dot state, and it should be, now the term should be empty, because in later steps this state would get updated with the term that the user or we would provide. I couldn't get the app to show anything, so when I access the console, it was saying this dot state is not a function at search bar JS line 7. So if we go to our search bar.js file at line 7, here we have a syntax issue. Correct that real quick. Now if we go to our app, it's working fine. Inside our search method and pass this term to this dot props dot on search. In the search bar component, create a constructor method. Inside it, bind the value of this. Okay, so let's go here and type this dot search, and let's bind the value of this keyword. Search bar.js create a method called handle term change with the following functionality. Accepts an event argument, sets the state of the search bar term to the event target's value. Handle term change, and it should accept an event, and it should set the state of term to the event.target's value. Do in the search bar.js constructor method, find current value of this to this. Okay, let's do this and go here and handle term change. In the search bar's input element, add an onChange attribute and set it equal to this. Here is our input element. Let's add the onChange attribute or event handler. And what this would do is inside this input field, whenever something changes or a user interacts with it, it would fire this method or call this method, and this method would change the value or update the value of the term state. When this gets updated, this term state would get passed to the search method, and the search method would go to the app.js's search term, and it would pass it to the Spotify API eventually. I hope this video helps with any issue you guys had with your project. If you guys had any questions, you can leave them down at the comment section below. I will be posting the second part of this video, the steps that are left. I'm already working on them right now, so expect that video to be available in next week maybe. So if you guys like this video, please leave a like, comment, and definitely subscribe. It helps a lot, and see you guys in the next one.